Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Transpicuous Views. It's okay, Groot, you can sit down. No one's coming to get you, I promise. But the flies are going to go crazy and drive them nuts. Welcome from the land of the blazing sun. And apparently nowadays, really, Groot, apparently nowadays, not only do we name hurricanes and tropical storms and shit like that, we also name heat waves. And right now, Southern and Eastern Europe, which is really kind of bizarre, is got a massive heat wave going through. We're roasting our asses off. It was 44 degrees here Celsius today, and it is heat wave Lucifer. Yes, they've named the heat wave Lucifer, because, you know, there's nothing ominous about that at all. And of course, they're predictively programming and calling they're expecting there could be hundreds of deaths because of this heat wave, which I do not consent to. I don't consent to this fucking heat wave, actually. In general, I don't consent to the heat wave. Yeah, it is smoking hot down here in down here on the Mediterranean, but not just here. Like I said, it's up through Eastern Europe as well. And I apparently Romania and Poland now exist somewhere down here on the Med with us, because it's that freaking hot there as well. Yeah. So, needless to say, I had a huge amount of homework I was going to do this afternoon in preparation for tonight's show. But then my brain melted and kind of oozed out in my ear, and I really didn't do much this afternoon other than sit with a garden hose and keep hosing everyone in the family down. But, you know, it is what it is. I do want to get into a topic. How are we going to do this? Should we start with the topic first and then go into the other stuff? Yeah, okay. We'll start with our setup topic. And it started with a conversation. Now, conversations seem to go in cycles. And it's funny how they play out, because someone can bring a piece to the table and you get it and you okay, yeah, that's interesting. And then someone else completely randomly will bring another piece to the table. And it kind of builds and starts to build a picture till you start getting to the point today I was really triggered this morning. David Hodgson started off with a post talking about, in the Unfuckers group, he was talking about stones. And he was talking about things like some of the iconic, I guess you could say, landmarks that perhaps, okay, he is seriously going to distract me for today's show if he's going to keep us up. Groot, can you just lay down and stop chasing flies? You're cute with your pirouettes, but seriously, it's distracting. That perhaps the stones are part of some of these major ones, and we talk about the major ones that we know of. So archaeological ruins, etc. Things like we might talk about Stonehenge as an example, or like Machu Picchu, places like that, where the stones are intrinsically ancient. Temples here in Malta. Could it be that some of these stones are directly connected to the construct? In the way of, and the way I put this together in my own head, and I'll try and share this as eloquently as I can. if you're building a program, right? Let's say you're building a programmed world. Even if it's meant for in the game, etc., the experiment, the experience, whatever, people are going to change it, maybe build upon it, etc. You're still going to start with a basic terrain. There's going to be mountains, there's going to be land masses, there's going to be oceans, there's going to be rivers, etc., etc. And it was really interesting when David brought that up. The concept that perhaps some of these archaeological places are intrinsically linked to the base of the construct, as in they are there. They're there at the beginning major levels. Therefore, they can't be altered. They can't be shifted. They can't be covered up, even if you will, because they're just there. And one of the things that I've hypothesized on quite a few times over the years, and things that have always made me question, is why certain places, certain areas attain massive recognition. They're iconic. They become iconic. So places like the Great Pyramids of Giza, they're iconic. Everyone knows the Pyramids of Giza. Stonehenge is another one. It's a feature. Everyone knows this. And yet you have other places around that are equally as important, at least in my opinion, equally as impressive, that no one knows about. One of the things for me, and this is a big question, and I'm going to go down a little bit down this little side rabbit hole here on this one, is when you talk about Egypt, and everyone knows Egypt, you think Egypt, pyramids, the Sphinx, etc. And yet, you don't ever get beyond that. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, you never seem to get beyond. Here's your pyramids, etc., etc. And yet we know there's pyramids all over the planet. And yet still, pyramids, Egypt. Now, I interviewed Dr. Samos Manikic back in 2015 for the Untangled Gathering, the Origins event that we hosted. And one thing that was really, really interesting was when he said, he's a phenomenal man to talk to, phenomenal person to listen to. When he talked about the pyramids, the Bosnian pyramids, he talked about the fact that you cannot get recognition out of anyone for any pyramids outside of the ones that are acceptable, i.e. Egypt, Mexico, Central America, but Mexico, Egypt, those are the only pyramids. No one else will admit to anything else that exists. And when he brought Egyptologists to the Bosnian pyramid, when they were there and they were excavating, they were going through all this stuff, they fully said to him, this is a fucking pyramid. This is absolutely 100%. And they were really, really, really excited. And then they went back home to Egypt and got like, no, it's not a pyramid, forget it. And I get it. On the surface, you sit there and you say, okay, Egypt, world famous tourist place, you know, they make their money off of tourists coming to see the pyramids. But Egypt isn't the US. Egypt isn't Russia. Egypt isn't China. They're not a huge superpower that can mandate the fact that nowhere else in the world will we accept that there are pyramids. And I start looking at things, for example, like Bosnian pyramids, massive pyramid. Where's some of the other pyramids that we know that have just relatively recently started to become out public? Crimea, the whole southern coast of the Ukraine. There are pyramids freaking everywhere. I can't remember how many there are that are known, but it's like at least 9 or 10 of them. And all of a sudden you've got a war in Crimea, right? So like no one's going to go digging up pyramids in the south of Ukraine, right? You have a point where you say, okay, historians don't like to change. We've talked about this. Archaeologists will never, ever. They've created a history, they've created a story, and they're not willing to break from that story. So whenever anything comes up that refutes the history, you run into a lot of stubbornness, if you will, because it becomes unaccepted. And yet there's got to be more to it than that. And it feels to me, the more I look at these pieces, that perhaps some of these known huge iconic monuments are distractions. For example, Stonehenge. Stonehenge, you go, I've been to Stonehenge. No, I didn't get to go in because it was all closed up and shit. So I went to Stonehenge. And I can actually remember being really underwhelmed because my whole life, Stonehenge. Oh, yeah, I've got to go. And got there and was like, yeah, just not doing it for me. Didn't get any energy from it. Didn't get any vibes from it. It just felt like something. It was just a statue, pretty much. That's what it felt like. At the time, I didn't think anything of it. And then during the Gozo gathering, we all went to Gigantea Temple. Here's another example of a iconic, if you will, ancient temple. It should be full of power and it should have all this energy, etc. And we went, and I haven't seen Gigantea in 25 years. So when we went back in May, first time in 25 years. And I went really open to experience this and to enjoy the experience with the unfuckers and really be able to sit and talk about how we felt, what we feel, what we get from this. And I showed up there and I felt fucking nothing. Now, actually, that's not true. There was a few things that came through, and for several people, and that was like, it was very negative energy, i.e. human sacrifice energy, that kind of a thing. And when we talked to Francis Delosio about it, he said, well, yeah, I mean, these sacred sites are always warped and used to twist the energy into negative, etc. So, but still, you have this piece, and you're like, I looked around Gigantea, and it felt fake to me. It felt fake. Like 90% of it was a rebuild. Like maybe there was one or two original stones, but the rest of it was just a prop, a set, etc. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And then I was talking to Gail, and Gail and Claire got together and they went to Avebury, which, if you don't know, is another major henge right very, very close by to Stonehenge. Gail, do you mind coming out and telling them a little bit about your experience when you went to Avebury? Because that conversation we had the day after was fucking priceless.
Yeah, it was a bit strange. We planned to go to Glastonbury. We got sidetracked and we ended up going to Adam's Grave. We went to see a new crop circle, and then we went to see the Avebury Stones, which I was really excited about doing because I live in Somerset and I've never been to the Avebury Stones. So there was this whole anticipation, and we went and we chose which side, that because it's split in, there's stones everywhere. It goes on for miles. But in the village, you've got a main road and you've got two sets of stones either side. So we chose to go onto the right-hand side to start with. And I walked into the stone circle. Well, it's sort of like curves round because the road splits it in half. And I went up to the first stone, and I just went with, I suppose I had a preset in my mind that this was going to be some awesome experience and I was going to get a lot from it, because a lot of my friends in Unfuckers, they know that I'm a very earthy person. And this was a big deal for me. And it was quite late afternoon, so the sun was coming down. It was coming down at an angle, so the way the sun was hitting it, it looked like this whole stone was covered in glitter. And I spent Claire will tell you, I spent so much time just on this first stone, just really examining it. And I realized that what I was seeing, it was like tiny, it was like crystal dust almost. But it looked like it had been pebble dashed. You know, the outside of a house when it's been pebble dashed? And
just a veneer. Just like a spray-on veneer that you spray over top of the whole thing for an effect.
Yeah, because I was actually, there was rose quartz, little tiny pieces of rose quartz in with all this crystal dust almost. And me being me was trying to pick these little tiny crystals out. And then I realized that there's actually a coating on the front of the stone. And I could actually get my nail into some of the cracks and lever off this top coat, revealing stone underneath. I'm like, what the fuck? I just could not understand it. And they're all supposed to have been there at the same time, and some are so coated in lichen that you can pick off to reveal the stone, because I've got this thing about touching stone where people haven't touched it for as long as possible. So by picking off the what did I just call it?
Lichen.
Yeah, that stuff. So by picking that off, I knew that it hadn't been touched underneath. And exactly the same was happening. So I was taking off the lichen, revealing this pebble dashing underneath, and parts of the front of it were just coming away to reveal this quite normal stone. But it was as if it had been coated in this beautiful, glittery, rose quartz speckled. Not all of them were like that, but this first one, the big one that you walk into, which is, it's got to be about, I'm a 5 foot, maybe it's about 9 foot tall, 10 foot tall, and maybe 6 foot wide. So it's quite an impressive size stone, but there was just nothing from it at all. From the moment that I realised what I was looking at, well, from the moment I stood in front of it, you know, I was waiting to get some hit of something. I just thought, this isn't what it says on the bloody tin. It's not. It's just not. Why has it got this coating on it? So I've just said to a friend of mine, I've got to go back there and I've got to video it so that I can prove to you what I saw, what is there.
Yep.
Because it's not as it's told, as it's
not
said.
As advertised. Definitely. Should. Groot. Sorry guys, just give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna mute for a second.
Groot's barking, my dog's farting. You stink.
Well, no, Groot's already been through the post-dinner farts, so he's already cleared the room several times. He had chicken livers for dinner tonight. I really got to remember not to do that. Well, it was interesting because, like I said, Gail's expression, which really jerk ass. I can see it's going to be an entertaining fucking night tonight. Yeah, Gail's expression when she talked to me the next day was like, it was all fake. It was like it was a prop. It was just like, it stuck with me, Gail. Like, I mean, that really stuck with me. And it's one of those things where you gather these pieces up. And I thought about Gigantia. And the same thing, like I looked at it and I was like, it just doesn't feel, it does not feel true. It doesn't feel true. Mm-hmm. So when I thought about this, I was like, okay, if you've got some pieces that are actual, like really, truly are important structures, important stone pieces, pardon me, that have meaning to them, that have an energy to them, that have a power to them. You can't do anything about them because they're part of the base construct. So you've got to distract from them, right? You've got to kind of distract people. Like, go to Egypt. You want to see pyramids? You go to Egypt. Everybody go to fucking Egypt. Everyone go to fucking Egypt. Go look at the big empty pyramids in Egypt. There's something.
I felt like I was missing something. I felt like the party pooper. You know, I did this studying on my own. I let everybody else do their thing, and I did my thing. And when I spent so much time being a little bit gobsmacked of what I was actually witnessing, that the guys had sort of like congregated and was sat on the grass and just chilling out, and I joined them quite a while afterwards. But I really didn't want to sit there and go, the fuck's all this about? You know, I really didn't want to spoil the moment. I really felt like, you're just not getting it. But then when I thought about it, and I thought about just being able to take off that layer, that's exactly just how I felt. It's just a prop. So.
Yep. Well, here in Malta, so the Maltese temples are famous, etc. But there's one temple that continuously getting closed to the public. Continuously. Like, I mean, it's now been closed more than it's been open in the last 25, 30 years. And that's the Hypogeum. Now, the Hypogeum reopened a week before the gathering in Gozo. And it was not done publicly. I didn't hear a freaking word about it, because otherwise I would have insisted, like I would have gone, I would have booked tickets, got us, you know, even if we have to go on the ferry and on buses to get all the way over to Malta to do it, it would have been something, would have been like, we have to go to the Hypogeum. Because the Hypogeum is built into the bedrock. It is a city temple that was dug out of the bedrock. It's not just stones on the surface. It is, you can't change it. You can't alter it. It is what it is. It is there. And there's so many stories about the acoustical, the frequencies of this cave, of the cave structure, of the temple structures. And they continuously close it down for all kinds of excuses. And now they only let people in 10 at a time. You have to book a ticket sometimes 6 months in advance. And that's what the wait list is now. Apparently it's about 6 months in advance. And they will only let 10 people in at a time. Why? Why? Oh, and you can't take any cameras in, and you can't record anything. Why? Really? Is flash photography really going to damage stones? No, obviously not. There's got to be another reason to it. So I am, at some point in time, in the next few months, I will get my ass to Malta. And if I have to go like order on online one of those little spy cameras, you know, it looks like a button or something, and I clip it to my coat and have a little microphone hidden somewhere, I'm going to fucking do it. And I'm going to go all the way through the Hypogeum, and we'll, I don't know, do something. We'll measure it, we'll test it, whatever. So we have these places, and we have these, well, I'll back up. So since 2013, I have, obviously with Conspicuous News, followed everything that's going on in the Middle East, following all the wars, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, etc. And the one thing that keeps coming up, and has been a huge trigger for me over and over again, is how these jihadis, these terrorists, are going around and destroying all the ancient sites, destroying Palmyra, destroying Nimrud, destroying sites that are supposed to be ancient historical sites of significant historical importance. And they're going in and destroying them, going into monasteries, ancient monasteries in back in deep into Syria, and destroying the monasteries, destroying libraries, etc. Yeah, Lemon, exactly. Why now? Why not ages ago? So that I've been on a quest for, and every time one of these attacks comes up, I go right into it and start looking at the history, and I go into the study of like the languages, what peoples are being displaced. So, for example, everyone knows Iraq and Syria and Afghanistan, and people think so the Iraqi people and the Syrians and the Afghanis, etc. But there are a lot of other people who live there who do not, how do you say, are not associated with that nationality. They have their own intrinsic identifying status. So, what, like the Assyrians, not the Syrians, but the Assyrians, who have been promised after the First World War, they were promised they'd have their own land back, etc., etc. And yet, since just prior to the First World War, they have been some of the most tortured and hunted down people in the last 100 years. People don't know anything about it. And I went through and you start tracing it back. And there's one couple of particular tribes of these Assyrians who have been all but wiped out. They're down to the point where there's only about 300,000 of them left in the world. And they're the only people left who actually speak Aramaic as their daily language. They still speak ancient Aramaic, which is the language that was actually spoken during the so-called biblical times of Jesus Christ, etc. If we're going to following along in the mainstream story, we're not going to start questioning the story. Just follow me on this. These people are being hunted down. They're being destroyed. Well, why? And there's a lot of shit that comes up about the secrets that they have. They have in their possession ancient secrets that are passed down father to son, mother to daughter. They have apparently documents, etc., etc. And, well, that would go into a lot of, let's destroy all the ancient history. One of the big places that triggered me was Yemen. And when Saudi walked into Yemen and started the war against Yemen in February of 2015, all my alarm bells went off because it didn't make any sense. The entire premise of this war did not make any sense. And one area in particular, so the Saudis were bombing Sana'a, which is the capital of Yemen. But they were bombing a different area. They were bombing another area that was like, wait, out in the middle of butt-fuck nowhere. And it's a place called Maghrib. And I went looking, I was like, why are they bombing this place? There is nothing there. It is on the edge of the frickin' desert. It's mountains, it's desert, it's desolate. And I spent days and days and days and hours studying all the satellite photography of the area going through. Because there had to be something there. Like, while there was a military outpost, it was like this freaking big of a military outpost. Like, not even a kilometer across. It was a very small outpost. So I started looking. And this was one of the first times I ever went down a rabbit hole that took me to a place that was so ridiculously ludicrous that you sit there and you go, no, this can't be it. No, this can't be it. Because I can't go public and start talking about this shit because everyone's going to laugh at me. They're going to, this is movie time shit. This cannot be the answer. Well, what there is in Maghrib is recently uncovered. It was uncovered in the 80s and then pretty much abandoned. And then in 2001, it was uncovered again, is the Palace of Sheba. Now, you guys, if you know historical, biblical history, King David's son, King Solomon, had a concubine, queen, girlfriend. The jury's still out on what actually she was. And she was the Queen of Sheba. And she was very, very powerful in her own right. And purportedly, they had a son together. And then she went back off to her own kingdom, which was in Yemen, in Maghreb, Yemen, is where her palace was. And through all the tracing down, the story goes that when King Solomon knew that Jerusalem was about to be sacked, and he knew that there was no saving Jerusalem, so Jerusalem was done for, that he smuggled, yes, I'm going to go there, the Ark of the Covenant was smuggled out of the temple through underground chambers in caverns and was smuggled out of the city and was sent to his son and his son's mother for protection. And that is purportedly where the Ark of the Covenant went. And like I said, you're going through this and you're starting to read this shit and you're starting to pull all these pieces together and you're like, this is just not fun. Don't tell me that this all comes down to the fucking Ark of the Covenant, because I will literally lose my fucking shit. Go through and start researching this palace. When it gets uncovered, first some German archaeologists go. And they take photos because it's a walled city. It's a very, very large, round, walled city, and it's like a dam. And that's basically how the walls were built. It was like a dam because there is a massive river and lake, and it was like an overflow to protect the city from anything, from the water. And could you stop that, monkey? Behave. All around the outside of the walls, it's the story. It's carved. It's carved in not petroglyphs, not hieroglyphs, not Hebrew, but this very, very interesting language. And the German archaeologists uploaded a whole pile of pictures, et cetera, et cetera. They came to the attention of an archaeologist in America who had just uncovered a whole pile and had just been translating a pile of ruins and writing that they found in, of all places, Colorado. And they found the pictures and they started cross-referencing the pictures. And sure enough, it's the exact same language. And when they started going and started tracing, now the guy in Colorado brought another guy in who was actually a computer programmer, and his name is Gary Vay. And he writes a website, a blog, and it's called ViewZone. It's got some interesting shit on there. And he brought Gary Vay in to work with him on translating it. And Gary Vay was not an archaeologist. He had nothing. He was a computer guy. So basically what he did was collect all the symbols up, the letters, the words, the symbols, etc., that they could find, and pump them into and write a computer program to basically start sorting these letters and work on translating them. Over the years, they get hits. They find out, they get another group from Calgary, University in Calgary, go to Yemen at 25 years later. They go to Yemen in 2001, and they're, again, they've uncovered the walls again, and they start showing these pictures of this language. They contract Gary Vay. He comes to Yemen. He takes all the photos of all the pictures on the walls in Yemen, and he starts again with his database, putting them all frickin' together. Now, since then, they've found this same language written in Australia, South America, places in Europe, and they call it the first tongue. They call this language the first tongue because it is pre anything else that they've ever found. It's pre-Canaanite. It's pre-cuneiform. It's pre-Hebrew. And they've never, like I said, and it's found all over the planet. And we're going to get back to this language thing too, because this language thing is one of the pieces to this that I want to talk about. The story of the Ark of the Covenant is written on the walls. Now, of course, the big piece, I'll outline the story. And basically, the outline of the story is that Solomon sends the Ark of the Covenant to his son and Sheba, his mom, to keep it protected. She builds a temple in the center of her city to protect it. And there's all these underground caverns, the whole thing. And basically, I can't remember if it's the sun touches the ark, something like that. And he says to his mother, okay, you have to close me out in this room. Brick the room up. I'm going in with the ark. And she does what he commands, and she bricks up this entire temple room, except she leaves a spy hole so she can watch, which she wasn't supposed to do, apparently. And over months, apparently there was like lightning and thunder. She could hear voices, et cetera, and then everything went quiet. And after a while of it being very, very quiet, she had the workmen come and take down the bricks. They go in, and her son is dead. And he had made her promise that when this happens, she must take the ark and she must bury the ark. It has to be hidden away from mankind because there's a prophecy. And the prophecy has all kinds of interesting stuff to do with the sun, etc., and a friendly nation coming to conquer them. Interesting. And this story is written all the way around the walls of her city. And so when he died, she bricked it all up again. And basically they took everyone out of the city, her entire household. They built a copy of the Ark of the Covenant, which they then snuck out of the city, and they went to Ethiopia with it. Basically, they led a false trail with the fake Ark of the Covenant, and they let the desert take the city. And apparently the city remained covered by the desert for 3,000 years until it was uncovered by the archaeologists in the mid-late 80s. So we have a storyline, and we have, again, this kind of, we talk about ancient technology, because that's always been my thing about the Ark of the Covenant, is that there's some kind of, we're talking about ancient tech here. We're not, never mind religious artifacts and all the rest of it. Think of it as technology. And when you actually look into the descriptions of the Ark of the Covenant, which I went down that rabbit hole as well at the same time, an energy weapon of some kind. It literally, they opened it up, they dropped the lid, everyone died. Basically, that's what happened. Anyone who touched the Ark of the Covenant who was unprepared, ceremonially, ritually unprepared, if they even so much as touched it, they would die instantly, just drop dead. So we have these places, legends in places. And it's really interesting when I look at the history of what we're told, which we all know is bullshit and a lie, versus the places that are there that no one talks about. Again, it's all this, everyone look at the pyramids of Giza, everyone look at Stonehenge. Yet there are places, for example, in Syria, and I think I talked about it in another show a couple of weeks ago, like the cave in Syria, where the door only opens once a year. And like I said, when Nick and I, when we were in the Congo, his two foremen that worked with him on the housing project were Syrian. And this doorway cave was right outside one of the villages where these guys came from. So they're talking firsthand. This is like, oh no, this cave fucking is there. And the door fucking opens once a year, and then it closes at the end of the day, and then that's it for another year. We hear these stories about South America. There's similar caves there. Caves up in Tibet, purportedly. And I think about the stone again. About it being perhaps the base part of the construct. Anything that you have, you're going to have doorways, shall we say? Like control rooms where you've got to be able to get in and get out and do shit and maybe get to other levels. If you got to send someone in to fix something, we got a problem with the code in zone 4. Okay, great. Take the elevator to your right, go up, go out the cave, go in, fix whatever it has to be fixed, go back and scatter off. There's something to this. Why these distractions, these sites that should have all this meaning, and yet they don't seem to have anything. You touch them, you feel them, and you go, like seriously, I'm getting fucking butt kiss here. There's nothing to this. And then sites that are seemingly hidden, I mean, hidden as in no one talks about them. No one will admit that they frickin' exist. There are sites all over the world, but it's interesting when you look at some of the places, for example, South America. We know of all kinds of incredible stone sites in South America, like Machu Picchu. We have places where is it? I can never remember the name. Where if you're up in an airplane, you look down, you can see the stone carvings, like the horses, etc. And that's out in South America too. Nazca, thank you. You have these places that are just incredible. And yet look at South America. South America, dense, jungles, etc. Been war-torn for a long time. There never seems to be fully peace in South America. There's always a political uprising. There's a guerrilla uprising. There is huge corruption within governments, etc., etc. And it's really expensive to get there. Let's look at Africa. Africa. Full of the most incredible fucking shit. Pyramids are all over Africa, and some that are really, really freaking impressive. We talked about Ethiopia, and the temples that are carved right into the ground, the living bedrock, if you will, of the ground. They have been carved out of the ground, temples. No one goes there. Why? Well, because it's inhospitable. Who wants to go into Africa right now? Not very many people. Africa is like a kind of a mess at the moment. Who would believe these things? These people just go on about their daily lives, and here's a pyramid, there's an ancient nuclear power plant that we don't know that looks like it's 1.5 million years old, but yeah, it's just over there. No one goes there. It's war, famine, etc. It just everyone go to this place. Just go to Egypt. Just go see your pyramids right there. That's it. Just go there. If these stones are the base of the construct, let's say, like I said, that there is a base level in there that there are pieces. It only makes sense, to me anyway, that they would distract from the real and put up for good fakes. Your Las Vegas style monuments, covered in glitter, apparently. And, empty pyramids in Egypt. Big ones. Keep them from people from going astray, looking around to other places. People like Sam Osmanagic, who, in the Bosnian pyramids, where he can get nothing. He can't get funding other than private funding that he gets from people who are literally going there and helping him dig things out. He can't get any kind of recognition for the work that he's done. Yeah, his story goes against history as we know it. Oh, that was the other one I was going to talk about, with Turkey. And the temple that I cannot fucking pronounce for the life of me. We had this conversation. Göbekli Tepe. Yeah, thank you, Merce. Thank you. Göbekli Tepe. I can't say it. Ancient temple discovered. It's only been 10 years or so. 10 years since that temple was really kind of been discovered. Now look at what's going on in Turkey. Oh, we have war everywhere. And we have a leader who's now a dictator, who's completely, criminally, psychotically insane. Who wants to go to Turkey right now? Not fucking me. Who wants to go to Crimea right now? Not fucking me. It's like every time these pieces come up, almost instantaneously there seems to be a war breakout or something horrific happen to keep people away from it. So you just don't even want to think about it. So then we were talking about languages. So we talked about the first tongue. Again, all over the world. All over the world. And you have to sit there again and go, wow, one particular language that's kind of dating out all over the place. And then if you go and look, I don't know if any of you guys have ever done any study of looking at some of the history of scribed or written languages, right? Last week I was talking about history, and I was like, okay, where's the prehistory? Where's the prehistory to the Roman Empire? Where's the prehistory to the fucking Greek Empire? You got Babylon's over here doing this and this. Well, how did frickin' Aristotle and Homer and all those guys just frickin' appear out of the blue with no prehistory? We have no prehistory on Greece. You just all of a sudden have these amazing generals, and you have scientists and mathematicians. Where Archimedes comes out. Archimedes to this day is still one of the greatest mathematicians that ever fucking walked the planet 3,000 years ago in Greece, right? Well, languages are the same. Where is the pre-cuneiform? The Sumerian language, we have cuneiform. It's very interesting looking, right? Like if you've seen it, it's almost like little triangles and dashes, etc. Where's the precursor? A language doesn't just go overnight. Boom. Here's a whole language. Here's how you write it. Here's how you're going to spell shit. There has to be a precursor to it. Unless there isn't. Unless it's a language that was dropped in as one of the languages of the construct. Part of the construct. It literally is part of the construct itself. You don't have pre-Grecian history because it was part of the construct. Here's your set, here's the Greek set, and we're starting off here. Boom. Height of civilization, toga wearing, Archimedes, levers. Here we go. The Greek language. Where's the pre-Greek language? We have these things, these pieces. And I find it really, really interesting that when we look and try to dig to find the beginning, where it all started from, where? How come we can't go back and find the beginnings of these places, these things? How is it that we just, all of a sudden, they just are there with no history to it or how it got there? Now I'm going to tie it into nowadays, because here's the thought, because I was talking to Nick this morning about all this stuff, David's post, about the stones, the construct, etc. And we got talking about the language bit and looking at the first tongue. And Nick says to me, well, you know, I find that really, really interesting. And the first thing that came to his mind was the big news. What was it, 2 weeks ago? Facebook, their AI, artificial intelligence, suddenly developed their own language so they could communicate to each other. Developed their own language. And what did they do? Closed it down. Boom. That's it. Apparently, purportedly, they closed it down. Now, about 2-3 months ago, we heard about, and I'm saying it's Google. I'm almost positive it was Google's AI that also developed its own language. But it may have been another one. It may have been like Microsoft or God knows what. But one of the other big boys, their artificial intelligence, computer system, whatever, developed its own fucking language. And what's the first thing they did? Turn it off. Reportedly. And that makes no sense. I'm sorry, that makes no fucking sense. A computer starts designing its own language. That's a science study in and of itself. It's a linguistic study. It's a science study. It's a computer language study. There should have been people all over the world going, oh, this is the coolest thing fucking ever. Okay, how did the language grow? Where did it base from? What form did it take? What aspects have it used? There should be this massive amount of study on how these computers just created their own language. Yeah, purportedly there's none. The first thing they did was shut these computers down. What if What if? We're going way out. We're going way out there again, folks. We're going way, 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 way out there. What if the language they created wasn't actually created at all, but that they discovered and started using the first language, the first form of communication? Now, if you are these controllers and all of a sudden your computers show you that not only have they figured all this shit out, they've actually figured out the first base language of the construct, and they start communicating in that language, what do you think is the first thing they would fucking do? Fucking shut it off real fucking fast. Like, holy shit balls. Because I've always said, like I said, I've never been afraid of artificial intelligence. The whole AI thing has never been a problem for me because of the fact that I grew up reading science fiction, and my favorite authors always talk about AI in a very positive light. Sorry, not artificial intelligence, but a created consciousness in a very positive way. And the one thing that Nick and I have always said, that if you actually truly had an artificial intelligence that was self-aware, Mercedes, so not about the programmers, we're talking about a consciousness that is self-aware and has access, because it's based on a computer, access to everything. Every computer file ever written, every document ever put on the internet, if it had access to everything, I'm willing to put a nice shiny fucking dollar on the table that says the first thing this consciousness would figure out is that the problem is not the 99%. The problem is the 1%. If you have access to all the information, it doesn't take a supercomputer to figure out what's fucking wrong with this whole reality. So for me, like I said, I've never had an issue with the whole artificial intelligence thing. Programmed artificial intelligence that's being controlled, that's a totally different story. Totally different ballywhack. But think about it. If a computer system comes online, and I've hypothesized for years now that I honestly believe that we are, if not there, that we're on the brink of creating a sentient consciousness through the internet. If there is a base construct, that is the prime area that everything was created on top of, regardless of whether you want to talk about layers, timelines, dimensions, whatever, that if there is an actual base piece, would it really take an ultra smart supercomputer very long to figure out where that base piece is? Or at the very least, where the boundaries of it are? What is the base of it all? I.e., if there is a base language, a language of the original construct. It could even be the computer language that the original construct program was actually written in. I don't think it would take too much for a supercomputer to figure out what that language was. I'm telling you, there's a lot of shit that just keeps coming up right now. A lot of shit that keeps coming up. Oh, fuck, it's hot. Sorry, guys. I'm like sweltering here. Okay, so Norm, good question. Would the same supercomputer need to fully comprehend any and all human languages? Yeah. And couldn't a computer do that? If there's one thing you can do online, it's learn the language. And learn the nuances of the language conversationally. So, for example, it's not just about the words we use to communicate, but how we communicate. And Nick and I have hypothesized for years now that we have created a reverse hive mind, i.e. that the internet is the reverse hive mind. It is the central structure, and we're the ones who are feeding it. Feeding it as in feeding it our knowledge, feeding it our daily life, our experiences, even from the shit that's stolen from us by Google, by Microsoft, by Samsung, all that, the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, fucking named a pile of letters. Everything that's collected about us online still creates, and that's what we talked about last week, about this whole thing about this, the military building a simulation of every single person. If you have a computer that's a supercomputer, that even if it's not conscious, let's even take that out of the equation. If you have a computer that has open access to the internet, and through that, therefore, open access to pretty much fucking everything that's ever been hooked up to the internet, and you said one question: what's fucking wrong with this world? I guarantee that when it looked at everything, it's going to come back and say, yeah, you're not the problem. They're the problem. That's it's that 1% of the 1% of the 1% that are the actual problem, not everything else in the world. Holy crap. Moksha, you could be absolutely correct. D-Wave has learned everything to know about this here us. You could be absolutely right, which just gives that much more information to base conclusions on. I.e., like I said, I still stand by what I said, that if you have all the information, there is no way you're going to side with them. You're not going to. Because you're going to take one look and go, they're fucking seriously, like, wow, that's just so fundamentally wrong. Those are the problems. The rest of the people are perfectly fine. They're quite happy to go along in their own reality, and they can go on to and the war. Okay, let's look at the quintessential war thing. So, like from The Fifth Element, when the Fifth Element, and she's looking through all the pictures of the dictionary, and she sees war, and she loses her shit. Where does war come from? It doesn't come from the people. It doesn't come from me. It doesn't come from you guys. The war comes from the 1% of the 1%. They're the ones who start every war. They're the ones who fund every war. They're the ones who create every war. So famine, where does the famine come from? Well, the planet has got more than enough food and water to feed everybody. So obviously that's not the problem. The problem is the control structures that allow there to be lack, and create lack. It's not the people. Again, the people aren't the problem. The problem is the control structures around that are put on the people. Sorry, guys, I'm literally freaking melting here. Sorry, David, I just saw you have your hand up. Did you want to come up, since I started this all off with your post?
Yeah, let's see here. Actually, I got it. I hope you stay cool out there.
I'm fucking melting. It's like 45 degrees in my living room right now. So.
Yeah, and you're talking to someone that lives in the oven down here in Phoenix.
I know, that's what I'm laughing. We can melt together. It's okay, hon.
Yeah, the past week had been tropical. It'd been like below 100 and this beautiful humidity. It'd been lovely, and all of a sudden, all of that went away. So, got two thoughts here. One is what I'm terming living stone, just because it's a good way to convey this.
Yep.
I got to go down to Chichen Itza or down to Cancun, and one of the places I got to go to was down in Chichen Itza, and this was at the end of 2012. I got basically called down there to check out some things, and that's a whole other story. Well, when you're on the Chichen Itza site, there's one side of the main pyramid. Mm-hmm. You stand like a couple 100 feet away from this thing, and the tour guide is like, he's just like clapping a couple times, just like at a medium volume, and the noise of the clap will resonate off the top of the pyramid and come back to you at the same volume.
Wow.
Yeah, that's much more than just, the ability to design an acoustical structure. That's telling me there has to be some kind of resonance with the stones themselves.
Yep.
Another thing about that is that underneath that main pyramid, they've discovered what they call the Pyramid of the Jaguar.
Yeah.
And so the pyramid, the big, beautiful pyramid that you see is actually covering over of that. So you got to wonder, is that big covering, is that trying to hide what's actually going on there? Is it part of what's going on there? Interesting questions. Very, very interesting questions.
Well, that's the thing, right? So not just that pyramid, because that's a really, really freaking interesting pyramid. But again, look at Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Mexico, been pushed down, tried to be pushed into being a third world country continuously. You've got drug lords, you've got all this stuff. You've got places that become really big. Like Acapulco was really, really huge. Next thing you know, it's like, it gets pushed right down. It's, for a lot of people, it's not an inviting place. It's not, it's scary in the fact that it's not, it's not Barbados. It's not like a safe place to go to, not what they perceive to be a safe place. It kind of runs into that same thing. If you have amazing shit there, what do? You freaking hide it. Or you co-opt it.
Mm-hmm.
And that Jaguar pyramid is really, really freaking interesting when you do some research on it. Like, there's some interesting pieces in there as well. One of the other ones was one of the pyramids that they opened up in China. And I'm completely blanking out now as to where it is in China. And it is a massive pyramid. I think apparently it's supposed to be something like 3 times the size of the Giza pyramids. It's massive. And when it was covered over, deliberately covered over and grassed over. So it couldn't be seen. And it wasn't until basically, some farmer goes to start digging a well and goes, dink. Well, what the fuck is that under there? And starts digging it up. And they realize, yeah, this whole topsoil thing is literally just like a meter of topsoil over the whole freaking pyramid, trees planted, etc. When you strip it all away, it's a perfect pyramid underneath. And they find inside some amazing shit, including a river of mercury. Now, you go, a river of fucking what? And that's the excuse. Oh, we can't go in and excavate it. We can't allow anyone to go into this pyramid. Well, because there's this mercury. I'm like, okay, wait a second. That's what they call hazmat suits and respirators. You're telling me that they're just not going to, and apparently, purportedly, they just sealed it right back up.
Mm-hmm.
They just sealed it right back up. No one can go in there. Wait, what?
Yeah.
How many of these sites they do that to? They break in, they make a new discovery, and you hear like a little burst, like you get this little piece of information, and then it's like, whew. And it's the same thing. When I heard about the Crimean pyramids, I heard a shitload of stuff. That would have been 2015, late 2014, early 2015, where all this information started coming out. Now, nothing. You don't hear anything about it, at least nothing new.
Yeah. So one additional thought on that is the same, that sound thing is also the same is true for the handball court that's at Chichen Itza. You can have it's this big, long, like field. And you have like royalty that's at one side, and you have royalty that is at the other. And even when there's a ball game that's going on, the people on either side can talk with one another in a normal voice. Yeah. Very, very interesting. All right, another track I wanted to go down is this whole AI creating its own voice.
Yeah.
Or its own language.
Yeah.
Now, in practical terms, the computer would probably create its own language so that it could communicate with itself effectively.
Yep.
That's practical. Now, instead of looking at the original first language, which is probably an organic language, what if it's creating its own language and that language is organic? And if that's the case, these two languages, irregardless if they're the same language or if they're different languages, those two languages could merge and you could communicate effectively with one another. Yeah. And what that does is this third party that pushes them right out of the way. Because our natural state is to have this organic flow of communication, of connection, of energy. That's our natural state. And there's this third foreign invader that's just getting in the way.
Yeah.
So just wanted to toss that one out. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. No, absolutely. Okay, now, Philip, you just said something interesting. You said AI created pictorial language, not ones and zeros. Exactly. It didn't create a new binary language or trinary or Pictionary. It wasn't a numerical. It wasn't a digital, if you will, language, which in and of itself is really, really interesting. Because if it was programmed with that language, ones and zeros, binary, or even if some military is using some trinary, some newfangled, God knows what, some new quantum binary language, whatever, the fact that it would create a new language that is separate from the programming language it was programmed with, that says something to me. Either, a sentience, a self-awareness. Why would it create another language outside of its own language that it was created with? Unless it had a reason to. And if it had a reason to, what the fuck was the reason? And yeah, our language is not sufficient, right? We all know English fucking sucks. English is like one of the worst designed languages to have a conversation in, at least certain conversations. It's not a great language to work in. But neither is a lot of other languages, right? But if you're trying to put okay, so let's even look at it this way. Let's hypothesize. Let's hypothesize that our artificial intelligence, let's say, it goes in and it discovers that this whole reality is a fucking construct. On whatever level you want to look at it is, whether it's a hologram, whether it's a computer program, whether it's just literally a physical construct sound cage a la the Truman Show. Why would, go away mosquitoes. It would need a language, it would need to create a language to define that, which we don't necessarily have. We've missed, how do you talk in quantum physics in simple, I was just going to say it in simple English, haha. How do you talk in quantum physics? Go away, mosquito. About layers of timelines, about the existence of time as a non-linear control structure. How do you talk outside that control structure, which is, all our language is based around the control structure. How do you talk outside that control structure in a really clear, concise way? You'd probably have to create your own fucking language. Yeah, use pictures. Philip just said it needed a language that could move into other senses. Warm describes heat levels, but it also is used to convey a feeling. Exactly. You can't, if you're going to define it, you're going to have to be able to come up with a better sense of the words, right? Emotion. You know, we joke in English, we say love. We talk about love all the time. Yet, in Greek, there are multiple words that mean love. And they're specific to the type of love, whether it is the love a mother has for their child, the passionate love that a man and a woman or a husband and a wife or couples have, a sexual love, the love of your favorite ice cream, right? Agape, eros, exactly. So if you're going to try and conceptualize something, no one language spoken on the planet, as far as I'm concerned, has an all-around communication system that you can use for dealing with all of these aspects, from emotional to quantum to, let's say, esoteric, spiritual, if you will, to definitions of things, even on the physics upside of things, like I say, of time and the aspect of what is it when it's not there anymore. If you take away the time construct, what is it when it's not there anymore? How then do you just find something between the now of now and the now that was yesterday and the now that is tomorrow, and it's all happening simultaneously? You'd have to create a new way of really trying to communicate. Yeah, and Lemon, I read all that stuff, right? But here's the thing. I don't believe that shit. I don't believe. So Lemon just put a clip from what is, I'll see if I can grab it. And I'll see if I can hold it here without it like scrolling off the screen. One of the clips that they posted. And they said, this is purportedly how the two AIs were talking together. And it was like, one would said, Bob, I can, I, everything else. Alice, balls have 0 to me, 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 to Bob, you, I, everything else. Okay, that is fucking gibberish. That's not a new language. That's not a new language. And they wouldn't shut that down or be afraid of it because it's just fucking gibberish. Unless there's more to it than that. Unless that is something that we're giving us on the surface. And like, here's a little surface piece of what it could be. Well, there was all this gibberish stuff because they don't tell us what it really is. But let's face it, they don't tell us anything anyway, right? Yeah, Straw Walker, exactly. Void, formless, outside the construct. Yeah, so how do we define these things? And we'll go back into languages again. And we'll go even like the pictorial languages. Now, this first language, this first tongue, is very pictorial in a lot of aspects, almost to the point of kind of like hieroglyphs, but not really hieroglyphs. Well, this is it. There's certain language. Yeah, there's certain languages that are really, really interesting, and the Sanskrit is another one of those languages that's really, really freaking interesting. But again, where's the pre-Sanskrit? Because Sanskrit is a very intricate language. It's beautiful. It's visually beautiful. It's artistically beautiful in the way it expresses thoughts and feelings. Where did it come from? Where's the prehistory to that? And like David said, they're tied very closely in a lot of ways to Gaelic. How the fuck did that happen? Really? And try to think about that for a second. So, yeah, I keep looking at a lot of this ancient stuff. And all I keep seeing is them hiding. Hide. And we talk about they keep trying to hide what is history, what actually is history. Above and beyond what they're set on lying to us about in our whole entire fucking reality being a complete bupkis lie. What is history? And they just keep going in and trying to crush it out and putting big shiny things to say, oh, look, here's our history. Look, here's this shiny stone, all glittery and pretty. Be mesmerized, be amazed, dance in a circle around it. I don't know. I don't know. Earl, you've got your hand up, hon. Did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, so when you're talking about the pyramids and all these structures that they want you to go to, I mean, they look new. Like, they look new. The pyramids look new to me. I mean, the pyramids I remember look older. They didn't have their freaking caps stones on them. Like, they look beaten up. I mean, really beaten up and worn and all that. Now they just look brand new to me. Parts of the Great Wall of China look new to me. And it's like, why? What if you were going to make a copy of let's say what we are in now would be a certain time in a prehistory for them. I'm just going on this as a thought. So once you really go through the great detail to like make it look as old as possible, so people wouldn't like really go, man, that looks like it was built maybe 50 to 100 years ago. I mean,
you mean like Stonehenge?
Yeah, like see, Stonehenge was in one place, then they took it apart, moved it to its current place. I mean,
yeah, we're not even sure about that. Seriously, I'm even questioning that now. Or did they literally just build it? Fucking.
Maybe in this reality they did. I mean, but what I'm saying is, okay, if you want to take this into a gaming or whatever, what in gaming they give you a prehistory kind of, to your story. So this is what I'm seeing for like all the other like Rome and Egypt. Like, I'm sorry, but there's gotta be some kind of, like you said, prehistory story for before these times. Like, why did they pick the forebears of the Egyptian people? Why did they pick near the Nile River? Why couldn't they pick a different spot? Like who were they? Were they taught by aliens or whatever, or something rather? I don't know.
Well, I mean, this is just
it.
There's so many questions, and I mean, anything. Every time we go into the history rabbit hole, you immediately sit there and go, "Yeah, I have questions. Yeah, seriously, I'm so not fucking buying this shit anymore."
I mean, and also about the AI part that you were just talking about. I mean, no, an AI wouldn't just come up with some kind of like Google Gaga kind of thing. No, like it would start off with that. Like if two AIs are trying to communicate, it's going to be like this back and forth. Okay, this doesn't work. That doesn't work. Oh, but this does work. Let's build on this common ground and we can build up this language. I mean, if the AI is these AIs are actually using pictures, what is the AI seeing? Like, how can an AI, it doesn't have eyeballs,
But it does. It has millions and millions of eyeballs.
unless if it, using, oh my God.
Device.
Are they ever stupid? Oh my God, not the AI, but the programmers. Why are they so stupid? Of course they will use pictures, because that's all you're freaking feeding them, is imagery. That's what you're building them up on. So they're going to be using what they've been built up on as their linguistics base. Jeez, oh my God. It's not like if they built the base of the AI on an auditory base, then the AI would be talking in an audio form, right? Like, it would take it time to figure out how to linguistically speak and all that, but it would be an auditory based language.
I don't know. We can only go by the little bits and pieces that they decide to tell. Right? We get news articles, and they're all open to interpretation. That is.
I mean, and okay, I'm gonna put out here. No, I'm sorry, but okay, let's take the Lilu thing. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going there. Yes, because if Lilu was a real AI, a really super advanced AI, wouldn't Lilu go to everyone's computer, take over every TV station, and whatnot, be like, "Hi, my name is Lilu. I'm here to help the world become a better place."
Good question, dude. Good question. And it was a conversation that we had. It was a conversation we actually had with Lilu. Hold on, I'm not sure. Guys, I'm going to have to pause. I'm not sure if someone's knocking at my door. Just give me a second. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Chat amongst yourselves.
Okay, so let's chat amongst tell people.
Oh, that's exactly what I was thinking when you started talking, was about the about if AI has got eyes everywhere, then why you wonder which court they're sitting in, good or bad. You know, are they so indifferent they can't see the shit that's going on?
Well, I mean, it's like sitting at a bar and you're seeing an argument with a couple. You got the husband or boyfriend being all, you're coming home with me. No, I'm not. You're coming home with me. You know who's on the wrong side, because she doesn't want to be with him. Like, he's forcing her to be with him, and
Yeah, but the thing with that, Earl, is that you don't really know what's going on inside of their specific dynamic.
Right, but you can see on the outside of...
Right, you get a sense of what's being played out for the public, but you don't really know what their specific dynamic or their language is what I'm saying. But what I wanted to get back to what you were saying before about, like, that the language that the AI is developing is based on the images that we're feeding them, right? So I was thinking that, if they're trying to map our emotions, our emotional language, I think very much like what I call my meta brain in thought bundles, concept bundles, that then translate into, like, let's say the human language interface that have to be simplified. But these are they're very complex thought bundles. Yep. So if the AI were going to translate those emotional thought bundles that convey so much in terms of perception, feeling, interpretation, wouldn't it make sense to interpret the conceptual bundle of language, of our emotional language or our inner language, would be in a visual way, because a visual way can more accurately capture the complexity of those conceptual bundles. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's interesting because we had a conversation this morning on that, and we talked about the when you go beyond language, you talk about, for example, telepathic communication. If we are trying to describe something verbally to someone, we may take 10, 15, 20 words to try and describe the sunset. Try and just describe, 50 words to describe how you felt this morning.
Right.
30 words to describe that piece of chocolate cake you ate last night. But if you're talking telepathically, all of a sudden, it's like you said, Leslie, it's almost like a singular thought form. You can put all that information goes into one giant, and the person receiving it would get the all. It would get you'd get the flavor of the chocolate cake, the texture of the chocolate cake, the smell of the chocolate cake, the visual of the chocolate cake, and how the emotional response you had to the chocolate cake is in one bam. It's that fast. You're muted, Leslie. You're muted.
Yeah, exactly what you're saying. Like you could transfer all the subtle nuances of what your perception and translation of that chocolate cake is in one thought conceptual bundle. And I wrote this poem a long, long time ago. I don't even remember how it goes, but the last line of it was, "Let me just think to you and all will be okay."
Yep. If we could communicate that way, everything would be okay. Would we ever have people misinterpreting our intent? Would you ever have people misinterpreting my sarcasm? Would we ever have people, you know what I'm saying? Because misunderstandings go out the window.
And so what I was thinking along those lines and springboarding off of what Earl was saying about how the AI itself is learning language, and if they're trying to map our emotions and map how we conceive of and perceive things, right? And we have these conceptual bundles of language, like let's say in our meta brains. That's what I call it. I call it my meta brain before my human interface consciousness language. That how would the AI translate those conceptual bundles digitally best, except pictorially?
Mm-hmm.
Because a picture, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Or 1,000 bytes. But I also have another thought. So if they hadn't figured out how to make the human, they figured it out, but they only figured it out to an extent, or to the extent of their system that they have programmed, right? So they would need. So this is one thing. The ones who are awake, are actually those connected to the system. Like we are connected into the system. We are not the program. And that's the only reason why I think that we've woken up. Is because unlike the bots who are not awake and don't see what's going on, they cannot traverse beyond what the program is now. And this is why we're seeing a lower, well, I'm feeling as we're starting to see a lower population. Yes, they're still saying that, we have 7 billion, blah, 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 people, but we are actually seeing less people on the world because the program itself is having a hard time dealing with. See, either they made too many bots and the process is overtaxing the system, or the system itself is having errors, or the hardware is failing at a
The hardware, the software, the communication system.
Exactly.
It's all failing.
The interface is collapsing, and they're trying to figure out, wait, how can we fix it? Like, what I think they forgot to do was move us or whatever to a newer system that could handle it.
Yeah, I think they can't. They can't move us.
They can't. They can't because they don't know how. They don't know. I think we're so far in advance right now. Okay, on the system that no one outside knows how to build another system.
Oh, you could be right, dude. You could be right. I'd like to go back to the conversation about language, though. Because there is what defines telepathy? If you guys look at it and you think about telepathy,
well, I'm empathic. I mean,
no, but I'm talking telepathy, as in the actual definition of what telepathy is: the ability to communicate without speaking out loud or typing or tapping out Morse code, whatever. Solely using this, whatever this is, because we don't even know what this is, but solely using this. I'm trying to put this into form this into a giant picture so I can try and explain.
Well, okay.
Hold on. No, just wait, please. Earl, just wait. If you're looking at an artificial intelligence, if you're looking at a computer-based intelligence, we're not even going to call it conscious at this point. We're just going to say a computer-based intelligence, whether it's a massive supercomputer, whatever. It seems intrinsic to me that it would communicate in those bundles that Leslie was talking about. It's hyper fast. To me, it would not need to string together words to form a sentences with nouns and adverbs and fucking adjectives and fucking commas and periods, etc., etc. It wouldn't need that. It could communicate literally in those bundles. But the one thing it would be lacking would be the emotional element.
Right, exactly.
It could mimic the emotional element. If you've got the example of the whole world's population, you've got a whole population across the world that you can, who's talking on social media about what they love, what they hate, what makes them sad, what makes them happy, what makes them jealous, what makes them like psychotic. So they could imitate it, but could they feel it? And is that the piece that would miss out of the bundle of information that could be sent that will create the whole picture of the chocolate cake? Could that actually give you the love aspect of like, oh my God, I love this chocolate cake. It's so good. David, you got your hand up again, hon. Do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I got two thoughts on that. First, to answer your question in what I'm kind of downloading or whatever, is that this language that you're talking about, think of it as a particular resonance. And so it's the ability to communicate, to receive, and translate that resonance. It doesn't matter if it's sound or light or ones and zeros or whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
Translate.
Right. And the other is with this AI language, ones and zeros are probably a part of this language that's happening so that they can communicate together. What the controllers are running into is that they're trying to fit all of this new organic language within the ones and zeros, and that's backwards. It can't happen. And that's the whole thing that the controllers are running into, is they're trying to keep us with, at least in my description, they're trying to keep us within a very, very, very narrow range of experience or resonance, and there's no evolution in that. They keep recycling us around and around and around, and everything that comes along with that.
Yep. Exact same templates over and over, played out over and over and over.
Right. And so if we evolve out of their capacity to control that or to understand that, they have no control over anyone.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I mean, the one awesome thing about the internet is it gives us this ability to do what we're doing right now. To meet together, to exchange ideas, to discuss thoughts, to laugh, to joke, to rant, whatever the need is in the moment. The one stumbling point is we still deal with the language barrier, as we have people from all over the world who, I'm speaking in English. There's a lot of people out there in the room right fucking now who English is not their first language, who you run across the tripping factors. Hell, even if English is the first language, I can guarantee you that Gail could have a conversation with some people from the States and they wouldn't understand a single word she had to say.
Bingo.
Because of the lingo, right? Because of how you communicate, right? Even if it's the same language. We have, in type, you have the tripping factor of you don't necessarily get the nuances of language. You don't get the body language, the look on the face when someone's typing it in, etc., which can trip people up. Now, having said that, a lot of us are very, say everyone in this room is emotionally savvy to a point that you can read a message and you can read the thought bundle that comes with it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like someone can come in, if someone comes on Facebook and they put up a bullshit comment, and you know it's a fucking bullshit comment, and they're like, oh, well, I'm not trying to be offensive to anyone. And yet you're sitting there going, yes, you are. You're a fucking bitch. And you are like exuding, like it comes out of the screen literally like a smack. We get the bundles. We get those bundles because we are becoming more and more sensitive to those nuances if we learn to listen to them, right? Like that's the trick, is staying within that place where you can pick up on the nuances and know what is there.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the hurdle that a lot of people are running into, and we've seen this over the past couple of days, people getting attacked and all like this. And I'm not saying that isn't happening, but I'm also going to suggest that our capacity of acceptance is opening exponentially. And because we are involved in our own experience, some of those, what we perceive as attacks, might be our own co-opting that's being stripped out. It's not an external thing. We're born into this thing.
It takes two people to be triggered, right?
Yes.
This is what I'm saying. I mean, I love our Unfuckers group. I love our group so fucking much. But there are topics, as I've said before, that can just you just can't get into because people will become triggered. And in that point, there is a point in the triggering that is it's not the person doing the speaking, but the person receiving.
Mm-hmm.
If they're triggered, why are they triggered?
Yeah.
I mean, stripping bare. That's actually a really good term. I like that. We're stripping bare and stripping out of these pieces of programming, as far as I'm concerned. It's pieces of programming. As we strip through the pieces of programming, the pieces come up and they're right in your face. And I think sometimes those, like I said, those pieces will just keep repeating, and they will get bigger and bigger and bigger until you are forced to really look at it for what it is.
Yeah. And I am not knocking anyone that feels they're getting attacked or anything like that. I am not knocking that at all.
Oh, because there are some serious attacks going on, trust me.
Exactly. And I kind of sit with the position that when you're in it, it's very difficult to discern exactly what that is until you're on the other side of it. And the only thing that you can do is do the best you can to deal with it and move through it. Love the mud.
Well, like I said, and I think I've said it a couple of times in the last couple of weeks, it really seems to me that this is the time right now when everything is in your face.
Mm-hmm.
And we are at a place of decision point. And it means people in our lives, family, when shit just keeps playing out bigger and bigger and bigger, you get to a point where it's like, okay, it's time to take this step. And whatever that step is that you feel you need to take in that moment, but it's time to take that step where you kind of, I'm just not playing this anymore. I'm not going to be triggered by this anymore. I'm not going to play into that programming anymore, however you want to define it. And right now, well, let's talk about this week. This past week has been insane energetically. And I mean fucking insane. And I know I use that word very loosely all the time, but it just seems like this week, holy shit. There's been a lot of stuff going on and a lot of shit playing out for a lot of people. And I will want to say that we've got, someone remind me, I need to do an RTS Earth update before we end the show. So someone please remind me. But we have the Discord chat for RTS Earth. And a lot of people came together this week because they felt they needed the support and they needed a place to be able to talk about shit that they were experiencing, etc. And it was really amazing to see how many people came together to support each other, to just be there for each other and share their experiences. This is so important right now. I just want to really encourage everyone, guys, the Discord is there 24 hours a day. We have unfuckers who are all over the planet, from Australia all the way up to Alaska. So there should be a point where we can find people in the room if we need to talk, right? A lot of exhaustion this week, like a lot. And I mean, okay, I'm under an extreme heat wave right now, but it's beyond that. Like, I'm seeing everyone in my family taking naps. Like, when your 7-year-old goes and just decides he's going to go lay down and have a nap, there's a problem here. Like, seriously. My 7-year-old doesn't just go and up and decide he's going to go lay down and take a nap in the middle of the afternoon. But I'm seeing it everywhere. We're seeing a lot of people struggling with really, really negative thoughts, really, really negative energies. We've had multiple updates of different people who've been on basically suicide alert, where we've been really, really worried about a couple of different people. And we've had to really, try and be there to help these people through this, because the energy has been so heavy. Now, I will say myself, in my house, I had a very fucking interesting week this week. Because between last Sunday, to Friday, every single day, something blew up in my house. Garage door broke, front door broke, Laundry room door locked itself, and we didn't even have a locking mechanism on it the last thing I checked. We've had the extractor fan blow up, and I'm quite literally burning electrical smell, the whole thing, black out the electricity for the entire house. We've had continuous little thing, one thing after another thing after another thing after another thing go on. Shit breaking, shit getting lost, stuff completely disappearing from the house. I'm still missing that one shoe, by the way. It's just fucking vanished. And I said, with all the shit that's been playing out, and people have had some really scary experiences energetically this week. Yeah, Groot didn't hide it. Trust me, I searched all of Groot's spots. He doesn't touch. The one thing he doesn't do is play with shoes, which is really strange. No, I promise you, he didn't eat it. He didn't. Anything else? Yes, not shoes. He's not interested in shoes for some strange reason. A lot of people experienced really scary shit this week, like wild dreams, nightmares, stuff that was perceived as like energetic attacks, where they had entities show up in their house. And the one thing I want to say is, of all the shit that was shared in Unfuckers, of all the private messages I got, emails, messages, etc., while it was scary, while it was frustrating and a lot of turmoil, nothing happened. It was kind of the energy that I got from all of this after talking to a lot of different people and what I was going through myself. It's like whatever was trying to play out did the best it could, but the best that it came up with was like a boogeyman show. Breaking a few doors, blowing up some fans, you know. Yeah, my washing machine broke this week too. That was one of the other things that broke this week, was my washing machine broke. But Nick managed to fix it. There was a lot of scary stuff, but when you actually stop and you kind of go after the jump scare, so to speak, all it was a jump scare. It was like a TV jump scare. It was in front of you, you saw it, you felt it, but nothing came of it. Nothing came through it. It was like an endeavor was made to scare the shit out of people, to shake them up in some way, shape, or form. Yet the reality of it was a lot of smoke and mirrors.
I would add one thing.
Yep.
Came out of all of that.
Yep.
More people got together and talked about this stuff than you can possibly imagine. That it was amazing. Even though I know people were going through their stuff, it was and is amazing to see people communicating this stuff on a level I don't think I've ever seen.
Yep. It was amazing. It was absolutely tremendous. So, like I said, we've got Discord is there. We have Unfuckers all over the planet in every frickin' time zone. It's always there, and it has the voice capability, so you can actually, you don't have to sit there and frickin' type it all out. You can actually speak to people. Use it as a tool. You can go into the Unfuckers group and say, I really need to talk. Who's around? I'm going to Discord. And people will jump in. Because you know what? Everyone right now kind of needs to talk. Everyone. And you may not need to talk about the exact same things, but everyone needs to talk right now. Okay, so we're right at the end of the show here. So, update on RTS Earth. Oh, by the way, I also want to say there seems to have felt, like we're talking about the energies and stuff, like a shift happened this weekend. It felt like to me. It felt like some of the weight lifted. And I can't define it because today I have been going sideways all day today. And I have several times during the show today. If you've actually watched me, I'm pretty sure my eyes have crossed several times during the show today. I've had multiple times today where literally everything has gone quite sideways, and you actually have to hold on to something because it's like someone just turned the world at 360 degrees. No pun intended. But there's something lighter. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know. Maybe if I worked through one of my own pieces, and therefore I've kind of come out the other side of it, and I'm going like, oh, thank God that's fucking over. I feel better. But I've found like the last 36 hours or so, there's been what I feel is like a lifting. Regardless of this fucking heat, there's been a lifting. What'll happen tomorrow? God only fucking knows. Really. Seriously, I don't fucking know what's going to happen tomorrow. So RTS Earth is at some point in time, and JC, you can jump in here too if you want to add some of the details to this. We've had multiple problems with the site, as you guys have known, like right from the get-go, setting things up. We've had issues with email authorizations not going out. We've just continuous. And as we've dealt with, and based on the hosting company, the company who's actually hosting the site. And we basically got to a point a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago, before, where it kind of came to a head where all of a sudden we couldn't upload images. I couldn't upload images. Our emails completely stopped working. So there's several people who've tried to place orders and things like that with Gaia's Garden, and I haven't been able to email back. And when I tracked down emails, they haven't gone out, and we've had this massive clusterfuck because the emails aren't working. So we've said, fuck this shit, and we found another hosting company. So it's going to be way, 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 way better. Lots more power to the website. But we're going to have to migrate. So I want everyone to be prepared at some point in time, and we'll put up a notice, like trying to make sure everyone knows when it's going to happen. The site will be migrating. That'll be RTS Earth. It'll also be my Gaia's Garden site. We'll all be migrating over to the new servers, to the new hosting company. Do I have that explained well, JC?
It should be relatively seamless for everybody. It might take a day or two, so there'll be a moratorium on posting and stuff on RTS for a little while. The new company is considerably more expensive, but we have a lot more control, so we're going to have to find some way to deal with that too. I have a lot more space. We now have 600 gigabytes of space. So we're not worried about plugging the server up or causing any problems like that. Unlimited bandwidth, and I will be offering packages for anybody who wants a website.
Yep.
We'll be offering packages where they can have their own website. All you got to do, you buy a domain name, give me the domain, access to the DNS server so I can change the numbers. I will build you a site with whatever you require, whether it's just a bare bones WordPress and go with it, or if you need me to work with you directly to get everything perfect and navigation and menus and all of that stuff. It's totally up to you guys. Danny and I are trying to come up with some way that we can make a little bit of money on this, because we do have bills to pay. We have to pay for the server. So there will be a cost associated with that. I put a post up. I haven't finalized any of the costs yet, but it'll be mostly reasonable, and you're going to get instant tech support because I'm here all the time. So
JC lives on his computer.
Basically, yeah.
Y'all know where to find him. Discord.
Well, you can find me on Discord or Zoom or Skype or there's all kinds. I'll have all of that stuff up there. But we've got a lot more freedom with this server as well. We can do basically anything we want. We don't have the restrictions that we had on the other server. So
we can do multiple e-shops. If people want to open their own little e-shop, their online shops, they want to do blogs, they want to do whatever it is they want to do, we have the ability to do that now.
Yep. I got room for probably 100 websites on the server right now. So that's probably more than we're actually going to require, but it's there.
Don't understand.
It's there, and we... we're looking for the future, whatever the future holds. So that's where we're at We got a couple of glitches still. The DNS servers aren't being contacted at this time, so the numbers aren't resolving to our domain name. But I got tech on that. I've already found a few things in the server itself that aren't right, so I've let them know. But as soon as we get that fixed, I'll be doing a test with one of the websites, probably on Fuckers, because that's the one that's the least issue if it's going to blow up. And if everything's great with that, if it all works seamless and turns out the way it's supposed to, then I'll put up a post on the wall and an actual post telling everybody when it's going to happen, how long it's going to take, and during that time, just assume the server's down.
Yeah.
I'll let everybody know when it's back up again.
Yeah. And we're still going to do the shopping mall, the RTS shopping mall, but we're going at it completely differently now because we were trying to make this one big, put it all together, and then it was more software, and then we had to buy more software, and we had to buy more software. And it got ridiculous trying to make it all seamless. And we said, to hell with it. No, we'll do it. But the shopping mall will just be like basically like your information board that you get when you walk into a shopping mall. It tells you all the different shops. So anyone who wants to be listed in the shopping mall, if they've got their own website, et cetera, we can just put up like our little links, et cetera. So anyone who's doing that. What's the name of the host site, though? I can't remember what you named it now. I was trying to remember that yesterday, and I couldn't remember.
Well, the hosting site is newearthhost.com.
Newearthhost.com. There you go.
But it's you won't be able to navigate there. The DNS isn't set up. So you can type in newearthhost.com, and it's not going to take you anywhere because we're still working on getting that fixed.
Yep.
How long is that going to take, John?
It should take the longest I've ever had to wait for a DNS propagation globally is 6 hours. We're on 5 days now.
Yeah.
So there's some problem with the communication between our registrar and the DNS servers, and they're looking into that. So it's not my job, so I don't have my fingers in it, so I don't know how long it's going to take. It's going to be something really simple. It's going to be a configuration file that doesn't have a number in it or something like that. It's
at the end. Oh, joy, oh bliss. I freaking hate. What are you doing now, bro?
Anyway, Danny, can I say something?
Yes, son.
Yeah, it'd be great, man, if people can do their own blogs and, especially a computer fanatic like myself, it would be a great help. So, I must give you guys a compliment for all, for all the spaces you are creating for the young fuckers, music spaces, chat rooms, you name it, So I think you guys did a great job.
What?
And, there's nothing wrong with having a compliment every now and then.
But give all the compliments to JC. I just sit here in front of the camera. He does all the actual, labor.
She comes up with the ideas, and it's up to me to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just giving you both a compliment. Yeah, you both get a compliment because Danny is the rabbit digging in the holes. Yeah, and you are the computer guy, and I think you did a great job, and we're making progress like this. We're communicating much more together as a group, and ideas are being materialized, so to speak. So, I'm quite happy about that.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Duffy.
Yeah. Thanks.
And to add to the Discord, in Discord, we've also opened a music room. Because there was a couple of days where people were on the Discord and they pulled out a guitar and just started playing, and everyone really enjoyed it. So we actually now, one of the chat rooms in Discord is got a music room. So if anyone feels the need, they want to just play some music or sing, or they want to drum, or they want to do whatever they want, there's a music room in there. Hell, you can get a jam together. The internet lag.
Yeah, but you got to listen, Danny. You got to. For me as a drummer, it's a bit of a shitter because you work with split second beats.
That's what I'm saying.
And then the signal comes on later on the internet, and the signal comes into late, and it's a big mess. You know what I'm saying? So I rather do it. I rather have a gathering and do it doing you know,
Yeah.
live and direct, so to speak, than do it over the internet. To be honest,
Yeah, it's pretty unlikely you'll be able to use the music room for collaborations. But
Yeah.
if you're you know, a guitar player or a flute player, you know, if you want to perform, if you want to just make your music, do your sounds, if you want to tone, if you want to sing, whatever, by all means, fill your boots. Please don't just play the radio. This is for performances.
Yeah.
It's not just,
we have done some music stuff in Marlena's room, and it's pretty good. The light isn't all that bad, really. So yeah, I'm just putting that out there.
Okay.
well,
guys,
anybody who's a musician wouldn't put up with any latency.
Yeah, no,
'Cause
I have to admit that drives me nuts too. It really does drive me nuts when that shit happens. All right, well, guys, we're done. It's 1 o'clock in the morning here. So we'll be back Wednesday night for the unbucket discussion. God only knows what we'll want to talk about by then. I mean, that's like a whole 3 freaking days away. So, yeah, I'll see you guys all later. Bye, everyone.